Hello everyone, this is Lettuce here, and Happy New Year! Finally, it's 2017. Well, in January it'll be the 4-year anniversary of this channel. Hooray! Well, along with this new year, I've got a new phone, which means, is what I'm using right now, which means an even better camera, which has even got slow-mo. It's got slow motion video, so, yay! I don't know what I'll do with it. Yeah, yeah. You can probably hear the train running around right now, because I just got a little train running. And amongst all the other things that have changed, and started with the new year, something rather major has restarted. Here it is. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. A hurricane has gone through Kringsupt. Yeah. Well, originally it was the scrappers. The scrappers came to the track. Very sad. And then all the demolition crews. But yeah, I have restarted. I've currently got my little London Transport testing train, or track test train. It's literally just an 040, a London Transport 3-plank wagon, and a brake van. That's literally it. But it works, yeah. Yeah, so with my last layout, as you probably know from the distance between the updates, I wasn't doing much. There wasn't really much happening, and I wasn't really motivated to work on the layout. So then I sort of realized that I've got all this I got all these Australian trains, and I've just been building them. Like, there's like 3 New South Wales S trucks in there, or S wagons, that I've been super detailing from just a kit. And I've been working on all these wagons and whatnot, and I wasn't doing anything with the actual layout. So then I sort of realized that if I want to be working on a layout, if I really want to work on a layout, it's going to have to be an Australian layout, because that's what I'm really working on. So I've decided, I scrapped all my old British stuff. I've still got all my old British trains and British buildings, which are up there, but I'm sort of starting new. So, yeah, so this layout, as you can see, it's just got a single main line, because that's all it needs. This is going to be sort of a heavily based, accurate representation of the old Darling Harbour goods yard, especially the Darling Island section, which is the most northern point, I think it was. And, yeah, so basically, if you don't live in Australia or New South Wales or Sydney, Darling Harbour is basically one of the original shipping harbours, basically right in the heart of the city, right next to the Sydney Harbour Bridge. And back in early 18th century, early 1800s, it was a major port, and then all the way up until the 1990s, early 1990s, I think, it was I think it was the largest railway yard in Australia, which, no, it's huge. I'll put some videos in the description that I found very useful for learning about the Darling Harbour Yard. So, yeah, so basically that's all what I'm doing. And also this layout is going to be more of an exhibition layout, because my last layout, remember, I had track, obviously all around, but then I had detail wherever that track is. I had, scenery and whatnot, and that sort of was kind of hard because there were just so many things to work on. I didn't really know what to do. And it also meant, because I was taking it to exhibitions, what I really wanted is for people to see all 3 sides, because there's only one side which basically had nothing on it. So I really wanted people to see all 3 sides, but I could never really do that. So, and also, thing is, because I had scenery all around, there was nowhere to put my controllers. And originally I had, see the little black section there, that was where I was originally going to put my controllers, but then I realized that's right where people can see. So I thought I'd, put them on the side. That's what I did for the 2 exhibitions I exhibited that layout at. I put them to the side, and just ran the trains from there. And that worked out all fun and dandy, except a lot of people could really see the controllers. It was kind of a problem. Yeah, so this layout is going to be more heavily based on exhibition, rather than just a home layout. My last layout was more of a home layout, where there's detail everywhere, and scenery everywhere, and it's really just for people to see. But I was taking this to exhibitions, and it wasn't really working the way I hoped. So yeah, it's going to be an exhibition layout. So basically what that means is from about here till just beyond the PVA glue container, where the train is now, there will be tunnel portals. Well, one there, one over there, and there'll be sort of a backdrop. And then all back here will be a big fiddle yard. That's what all these points and whatnot are about. So it'll be a big fiddle yard, and the controllers will go about here, because there'll be a bit, or if you watch the videos in the description, one part of it is they talk about Gillespie's flour mill, which was this really big flour mill next to the Piedmont power station, and that's what I'm going to model. I'm going to have the big Gillespie's flour mill there, and then inside of that, it's going to be sort of a hollow shell. Inside of that, I'm going to have the controllers and the track diagram, which says that I made it myself. I have to update it because I've changed the storage sidings at the bottom, but because of the metal underframe of this layout, I'm just going to turn that train off. Because of the metal underframe of this layout, there's like metal ribs going along every now and then, which means it's really, really tricky to actually put in point motors. Because a lot of the time with points like this, there's this L bit of metal, it's like an L underneath that's basically holding the layout up, and you just can't drill through it. It's terrible. So, yeah, so what I'm going to use this for is isolating. So basically that means, well, because this layout is DC, and I like DC, I don't like DCC, I count DCC as cheating. And it's expensive, that's why I don't really go with it. But with DC, I really like having a good challenge. So really, just like in Darling Harbour Goods Yard, this was a goods yard. You did shunting and whatnot in this yard. So what I really want is to have, like a train come in, and the loco go off, and there'll be a siding in the fiddle yard, especially for that loco. And then the shunting loco, currently my 48, will be a 73 class. We'll go around, basically just rearrange the wagons, because I haven't got any other wagons. There's not enough room here. Basically shunt around some wagons, build a new train, and then the loco will come back around, hook up, and then take it into the storage sidings in the fiddle yard. And that's basically what I'll be doing. And what I also want to do is basically have you have the shunting loco in one of the sidings, and then you bring the train into one of the sidings. Now, if you had all the track hooked up together with DC, the shunting loco will move as the other train moves. So what you really want is some isolating sections so that the you can have certain trains off at certain places. So, for instance, I've been using insulating joints, and I've got one track insulated. So basically, you've got the changing rail, or the changing rail, the positive, and then the ground negative. That's sort of what I'm going for. So currently, this track and this track are isolated. This track will be isolated. And this track will be isolated, this track will be isolated, and there'll be another big long storage track that will be isolated as well. So there'll be, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 6 or 7 isolating sections, which, is it's quite a lot, but it's actually pretty simple to do. So basically there's just switches that switch from connecting it to not connecting it. Pretty simple. And also what I've sort of adapted with is, this took me forever to think of. So you've got one controller which controls the main line, and you've got this controller which controls the yard lines. And what this switch does is this basically switches it from connecting this controller to the main line to connecting this controller to the main line. So basically that means that when this controller is connected to the main line, you can drive trains from the yard onto the main line. That sounds like a whole heap of gobbledygook, but that makes a lot of sense in my mind. And I'll also be having another one of those. I have a third controller for the shunting yard, so that I can do that sort of shunting. Sorry, for the fiddle yard, so I can get trains out and all that sort of stuff. So there'll be 3 controllers, and I'll be able to switch between them for the main line. Complicated! Yay! That's what I'm good at. I'm very good at complicated. Yeah, so that's sort of what I'm going to be doing. There was, besides not being motivated and I'm only doing Australian trains, I don't only do Australian trains now. I'm going to keep all my British trains so I can build a layout later in the future. But now that I'm building Australian trains, not being motivated and getting into Australian trains weren't the only 2 reasons that I decided to rebuild the layout. There are a whole plethora, like a 50-page list, not really that long, of reasons why I decided to restart. A lot of them were mostly problems with the layout. Like I basically one of the big ones is when I started the layout, I knew nothing about British railway architecture. So like with the bridge that went across the back, I had a vision of what it was gonna be like. Like it was gonna be a steel sided girder bridge. And then I sort of, when I started building it, I realized that I'd done it completely wrong and I had to add things onto it, and there was just so much that I had to do. And like the bridge bit that went across all four tracks over there, that was basically just some blocks with a bit at the top. They were meant to be arches, but I didn't do that, so it's going to be a lot of work just to make it look like that. And there was just so much that I had to change and do because I just didn't know. I didn't research back then because I didn't think of that. I just wanted to build a layout. That was it. And also with the track, I had to replace the track because the track that I used back then, basically all I had was old and crude and whatnot. Like these bits. These are old Tyco bits of track, and that's like cheap plastic with copper rails. And you see, they're just falling apart. And they're good for testing and whatnot, but they're just falling apart and they're terrible. Yeah, so I was using heaps of old track, and before the Hawktree Model and Hobby Show exhibition, I still have to make a video of that, so sorry. Before that, I think it was about a week or two before, I had to get 3 brand new lengths of flex track to replace 3 of the corners just so the train could run without derailing. And it was just a nightmare to get it all working. Yeah, and basically the reason why all the trains were derailing is because when I built all the inclines, well, basically when I did all the gradients and whatnot, I did them really steeply, and I based all that off this loco, which I thought, that'd be okay. It's a terrible loco. It goes up these hills, that'd be fine. But it tended to be a bit of a struggle for my Royal Scot. So, yeah, there was lots of different things that were going wrong with it. So I just decided, let's restart it. And that was about 2 weeks ago that I actually started pulling up track and demolishing everything. I've still got all of the bits. It's like a graveyard in here. Like there's the corner mountain bit, and there's all those bits and pieces. These are just bare bits of balsa wood. Oh, there they are. I was wondering where that was. But they're all for other projects, things, so I'm just going to keep them so I can use them. Like a lot of these bits I was using for track supports on this new layout. So there's all that sort of things. Yeah. And with this layout, like I said, it's pretty much solely an exhibition layout. So I've sort of tried to do new things that I would do with an exhibition layout. One thing that I've really had to do with this layout is because, well, with my last layout, basically a second radius curve went from that edge of the layout to that edge of the layout. And Australian trains can't run on anything less than a second radius curve. I think that's an 18-inch curve, and I think is just over 200 millimeters or something. I don't know the measurements, I just know the radius types. So, yeah, so I couldn't have any first radius curves on this layout. I can only have second radius. And because I have all these sidings at the front, I wanted to have, the track a bit away from the edge. So, what I had to do is I had to build an extension. Ta-da! Yeah, so basically I built, I think it's about 8 centimeters or 80 millimeters off the edge of the layout. So, it's not very much. I was thinking of having 100 millimeters, 10 centimeters, but I thought, you really only need that much. And that's, just enough that I can have a second radius loop of track going around with an extra siding on the edge. And it worked really well, actually. And I sort of came into a problem because going to exhibitions, this almost 2 meter width just fits in my parents' cars. Both of them, because they have the same car. So I thought that I have to do something so I can actually take off this extension. And that's pretty simple, because these bits are just screwed in. If I get my new drill. Yeah, so now if I undo these screws, I can actually lift up and take off this section whenever I need to. There's not a screw in there, so I won't pull it out. But I also did another thing here where I cut the track like this, which was a bit of a milestone for me. That was the first time I've ever did that. Well, actually, the first time I did it, I used a bit of that. I used that sort of corner, and that went on there. But what I didn't realize is it was basically right on the edge, and there wasn't anything holding the track on once I'd cut the track. So that didn't really work out very well. And then the second time I did it, I used a long piece of flex track over there. But I didn't realize that, well, I should have realized this, I'm very stupid, that when you grind the rails, it generates heat, and it melted the sleepers. And you can't see it on that bit. You can see on this bit. Basically, it you can see the track is sort of out of gauge now because it melted the chairs, or the shoes. See, it's just, yeah. So basically, and because it was on a corner, flex track likes to go back to straight. So obviously, it pushed the chairs out as they were melting to go back to straight, and it was just, I couldn't really do it. So I went with an old it's sort of a medium length second radius Lima curve of track, which is steel. I shouldn't be using steel, but I'm using steel. And it's a set track piece, so it means it won't warp or change. It's in the middle of the track, which means there won't be any tracks not connected. And you know, it's steel, which is actually very sturdy. Steel is it's really hard to bend against nickel silver. Yeah, so I did that, and it actually works really well. This track is about half a millimeter taller than that, a bit higher, so it makes a bit of a clunk, but nothing's derailed on it so far. And I just finished this, so I've got another Lima curve. Yeah, so I got another one there. I just finished nailing all this track in on the main line. See, all this glue's still drying on these bits. So, yeah. So basically that means that I'll be able to unscrew all these screws and then lift it all up, chuck it in the second car for all the other things, and, you know, take it to an exhibition, and then you take it there, put it down, screw it in, done. Awesome trains. Also, see, another thing that I've done here is, with my last layout, I would solder the terminal wires that go from the controller into the track. I would solder them straight onto the track, and that would kind of cause problems with, sleepers melting, because they're just plastic. So with this light, I was going to do that. You can see here I've scratched off the paint where I was going to do all that. But then I sort of realized that I'm going to be a bit more modern, and I'm going to solder the wires, the terminal wires, onto the fish plates, which means that they're hidden, and it means that there's no sleeper melting or anything. You solder them on separately and stick them on. That's the same thing that I did with the terminal wires for the yard lines. I think it's probably the hole just in there. So let's sort of talk about electronics for a second. So this slide I'm going to be a whole heap more electronically advanced with what I'm doing. So I'm just going to sort of explain this. So the green wire is what I call the change wire. That's the wire that you switch from on and off. The ground is the constant negative, or the constant one that's always on. Remember that I was talking about here, the insulated joiner for the change track, and the metal joiner for the constant ground track. That's what that one is. And you see the ground just sort of goes, these are terminal blocks. I learned that from a friend on one of my other YouTube videos. So the ground wires just come in and then wire straight to the switch, which then switches between the controllers. And then the green change wires, they go down here, and then he goes into these switches, which are in here, the switch on and off. And basically when it's switched on or off, it when it's switched on, technically, it connects through here through the other wire. And what else? Yeah. So those go straight to controls and whatnot. And then when they go through this switch, see they have the different wires. the white and the brown ones, they go into these two here, and these wires go out to the main line. Because remember, I switched the controllers for controlling the main line. So that's what this switch does. That switches the different controllers, and then these wires go out. So these wires go out to another terminal block, and then they go up to the track joiners. Oh, jeez. So, yeah. So that's basically a lot of talk. If you're still here, love you. Yeah, so that's sort of what's going on now, I guess. You can sort of maybe expect more videos now. Also, I got Facebook. I'm not going to tell you my name, because legal reasons. No, I'm kidding. But I am going to put a link in the description for the Facebook page of this layout, which has nothing on it so far, because I haven't been bothered. There will be something soon, I promise. So you can go check that out, like the page if you want. Doesn't matter, I don't care, honestly. So, yep, do what you want. I don't really mind. So, yeah, thanks for watching.